Hi, my name is Leandro Facchinetti, and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is the second part of this series of streams in which I am preparing a new release of a package of mine called caxa. It's a Node.js package that allows you to compile Node.js applications into an executable binary, a single file that you can distribute with your command line application or your web server, that sort of thing. And it's a single file that you can ship to people, and they don't even need to have Node.js installed. So it's like the perfect, simplest thing you can ship to someone for them to run your Node.js application. And today what we are going to try to do is fix some bugs on Windows. We're going to see if everything installs and works correctly for development, and we will fix a bug that has to do with excluding files when building. So you can say that you don't want a couple files to be in your build, and that feature I don't think is working on Windows right now, so we will fix it. And then we will also talk about, we'll probably try to implement this. It's a new strategy for the stub. So there is this stub which kicks off the process of running your Node.js application. And currently the stub is a Go program that we compile into a static binary and we ship along with caxa. But there is another way of doing this stub, which is with a bash script, and I find that kind of entertaining, so I'm doing that more as a novelty. It's kind of an idea that sparked the project to begin with when I learned that this was even possible. But the problem is that bash doesn't work on Windows unless you install the Windows subsystem for Linux, so that's why I wrote the Go program. But I thought it would be nice to have this novelty in there. It seems like my gain was not loud enough, so this seems to be better. Yeah, so we will write this bash script together to work as this step. Let's see how that goes. But to start, let's work on the Windows stuff. So I have already installed all the npm packages and dependencies here on this Windows machine. So currently in the stubs folder there is nothing, but I have a Go compiler installed. So I should be able to run this npm task to build all the stubs for all the platforms. So I should be able to say npm run build stubs, and that should work. And the reason why I'm testing this, I mean, what is the point of even testing this, is that I want people who are developing for caxa, so they want to work with me on the project, and they have a Windows machine, and they don't have the Windows subsystem for Linux installed, so all they have is just a plain PowerShell. I want those people to be able to run this task and compile the Go stubs if they are working on the Go part of the project. And that is not free. I had to use these extra packages that implement some of the shell functionality in JavaScript and makes it cross-platform. So I'm using SHX, and I'm also using crossenv. So this script should be cross-platform, and it should work here on Windows. But I have only tested it on macOS. And I can see some of the stubs in there, so this must be working. It's just that the Go compiler is kind of slower. It's not slow, but it's slower when building for other platforms, when cross-compiling. But here it is, it's over, so this part is working, and now we have a stub to work with. Now let's just run the project. Let's just run caxa and get help. In the help, there will be a line that we can copy and paste to try things out. So on Windows, this line should work, but I don't think I have tested it. I changed it when I released caxa 2.0, and I have not tested this. So I guess I can copy this, and I suppose I will have to say this much, which runs the project. And then I don't want the caxa part of the command, so I can copy this and paste. And this should work. It should compile, and it should produce a binary at this location right here, and here is our binary. It's already in place and we are done with the build. So we should be able to echo command line parameters exe, and there you go. That is all working, and we have tests that have run in GitHub Actions that also tested pretty much this same thing, but it's nice to actually test this on an actual machine in front of us. So I noticed that yesterday I changed the help, and I was documenting something and I made a small mistake. So we can go ahead and fix that small mistake. It is here in this part of the documentation that is about how to use the exclude command, which is in fact what we are going to work on, the command that is not working on Windows. So you can use the exclude command to emulate an include command. And I even tried to implement the include command because some people were asking for this, but it was less trivial than I was expecting, and I don't want people to actually use this. I mean, you can use this workaround if you are super advanced, but generally I think it's a bad idea to say which files you want to include in the project. You kind of already did that by putting the files in the folder, and if you want to exclude some files, then that makes more sense. You may want to use this as a sort of a git ignore, but at the build level. But my mistake here is that I forgot this exclamation mark, and that's all there is to it. So you can sort of emulate an include with an exclude if you use it like this. And it's important that you have this single quotes, because otherwise Bash will try to kick in and expand the globs for you, and we don't want that to happen. In fact, single quotes may not work on Windows, so I guess I will have some double quotes here, and now I guess I should delimit this string with backslashes. And I believe this will work cross-platform, but I don't think we will even bother testing this. The person who reported the issue and asked for an include attribute already tested this, and he said that it works. So that's that. Oh, and should also make sure that the format is correct, and it is. So now let's focus on the implementation of exclude, because the test for exclude is not passing. In fact, it's not passing on GitHub Actions, but how about we run this locally as well? And this Windows machine is not the fastest, and what we do to test is to actually build and package everything. So this build, this test, I don't expect to succeed or fail in no time. I mean, it will take its sweet time to actually do its thing. I'm thinking if there is something that we could do while the testing is running. And in fact, we can do something, because I think I have a clue on why the test is not passing. And I believe it has to do with how we are delimiting this string. So here we are excluding with forward slashes, and I believe that on Windows the problem will be the backslashes versus forward slashes. And I kind of tested this when I was developing this. I thought that that could be the problem, and then I just shipped a solution to GitHub Actions, and the GitHub action failed again. So I went back to this version and left it at that. But here it is. The test is not passing. So I guess the thing we have to do is to explore how two packages work with the delimiters. The first package is globby. That's the package we are using to expand the globs. And by glob, I mean something that is not even in this example, but you could have an exclude pattern that read like examples, and then this which will expand to every file in the directory. So that's a glob, and we are using a package called globby to expand the globs and come up with a list of files and directories. And then also we are using globby to build this list of paths that we are then passing to another package called fsextra as a filter function. So when we are copying your project into a temporary build directory, we pass this filter function along, and the filter function will remove or will not copy all the files that you want to exclude. So if you don't want a file to be in the build, it will not copy because of the filter. The problem is, how does globby work with forwards versus backslashes, and maybe that's the issue, and how does fsextra work with forward versus backward slashes? I think that's going to be the issue. We'll see. Let's write a quick throwaway script called remove.ts, in which we will import globby, and we will also import fsextra. And then let's look at the way we are calling globby. This exclude variable is a list. So we are calling this with a list which has an element that looks like this. Let's see how globby generates this. Do you think that globby will keep the forward slashes, or do you think that it will convert the forward slashes into backslashes? I think that it will keep the forward slashes. I think that's what's going to do it. I think it's going to keep the forward slashes. We'll see. There you go. So globby is keeping the forward slashes. And how about I change this so it is now a proper glob? How does that work? Awesome. So it keeps the forward slashes even if it has to expand something. So now how about we do this, which is way more files than our previous attempts. So this is going to generate a lot of files. Yeah, it's like a lot of files, but in all cases it keeps the file names with forward slashes. Now let's look at how fs works, and I suppose we can copy yeah, this line. And I don't really need to await, but I guess I will, just for good measure. So I will make an immediately invoked asynchronous function. And I will grab this line, put it there, and I will also grab this part because it doesn't hurt. And then what is our input? Well, I think that we can just pass this. What is our build directory? I suppose I can just use a temporary directory, so let's get a hold of OS, which will give us this machine's temporary directory, and also let's get a hold of path. So now we can do something like this. Or actually I don't need it. I can just paste this part here. So we are going to the temporary directory, and here what we are doing is just maybe the remove stuff. So we are copying this input directory into the temporary directory under caxa and remove. And then filter is a function. So I need to pass along a function that looks like this. And this function will receive as argument a path. And this path will be a path that fsextra is trying to copy. So it's a path that will be generated by fsextra. And then I need to return whether I want to copy this file or not. And I will say that I do want to copy this file because I'm mainly interested in logging how fsextra creates this path. Do you think that it will keep the forward slashes, or do you think that it will convert them to backslashes? I mean, it should keep the forward slashes as well, but that contradicts my theory, but we'll see. Oh, look at that. That is interesting. So if first of all, it printed this twice, which I don't know why. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. It should have only printed this once, but apparently the filter function is being called twice with this. And then it is doing the backslashes, which will not match the forward slashes over there. So I suppose that what we can do is maybe, first of all, I want to get a hold of the path in here. So I guess I would just say file. It's not really a file, it may be a directory as well, so I don't know, I'll call it P for now, because what happens if I path join just P? Does path join normalize the file or the path? Yes, it does. It always converts everything to backslashes. So similarly, I can do something like that to the result of globby. And I can map P, I suppose, using path join, and this will normalize the file names. And now I expect the things in green to also use backslashes. So everything in here is using backslashes, everything in there is using backslashes. So that is our fix. I think that was our problem, and here is our fix. The way we are going to do this is to say that, well, we want to rename this path, and now it's time to really give this a good name. I guess this is the path to copy. And then here, paths to exclude, we'll do the map trick like this. And I mean, I believe maybe, let's look into this. Maybe there is an option I can give to globby that will change that to backslashes. So let's investigate this real quick. Globby mdn, not mdn, npm. Here it is. And I will go to the GitHub repository because I prefer to read the docs here. And let's look for backward slash. Note that the glob patterns can only contain forward slashes, not backward slashes. So if you want to construct a glob pattern from path components, you need to use path POSIX join instead of path join. That's okay, because that's about the input that the person is giving on the command line. So that's fine. And then nothing in there, but this globby package is actually based on fast globby, and all the options from fast globby apply to globby. So let's look for backward slashes over here. Always use forward slashes in glob expressions, patterns, and ignore option. Use backward slashes for escaping characters. How to write patterns on Windows. Always use forward slashes, use backslashes, blah blah blah. Read more about matching with backslashes. So I learned something. I didn't really know about this POSIX join. That's cool. And I guess that could kind of work for us. So we can not map with globby. And here the path to copy, we could use path.posix.join, and that will convert from the Windows format into the Linux and macOS format, the POSIX format really. And that should work. So how about we try this out in our little remove file. So here we don't need necessarily to map. And over here we can say path POSIX join. And now what I expect is everything to use forward slashes. And it's not using forward slashes over here. So that doesn't make me happy. So I guess I will return to my previous fix, which is something like this. So here I will say path join, and there I will say path join as well, and I guess this is a path to exclude. So now I'm mapping using path join, and over here I am using path join on the path to copy right before I check. So that should have fixed the issue. Let me format this file so that Prettier doesn't complain, and we will run our test again. And yeah, I forgot to run Prettier over here. Awesome. So you may be thinking, well, that feature was broken on Windows in the 2.0 release. And yes, I was not as careful as I should have been because I just commented out the test on Windows. That's kind of bad behavior, but I wanted to ship 2.0 and no one complained. So go figure. There you go. Now the test is passing. And I want to remove the dot only. Let's review our changes and commit. So over here what I did was just to map the results of globby using path join, and over here I path join the path to copy right before I compare. In other words, I normalize the paths. The remove file I want to remove, and then in the tests nothing changed, and here is our commit. Next, let me go to the changelog and see if there is something else that is pressing here, but let's see. So a new stub strategy is something that we are going to try to do today. Simplification of the build distribution of stubs. So I'm treating the changelog as a kind of to-do list. If I believe that I'm not lying in any of these entries, then the 2.1 release will be out. So simplified the build distribution of stubs, cross-compile the stubs to simplify the GitHub Actions architecture. Oh, by the way, while I'm reading this, I could leave all the tests running on my machine and see if they pass, and I could also push this to see. Oh, it doesn't really matter if I push because I am not committing the stubs right now. So the test will fail on GitHub. That's fine. Simplified the build distribution of stubs, cross-compiled the stubs to simplify the GitHub Actions infrastructure. Check this, and we just checked this in the beginning of the stream. This is working even on Windows. check that the stubs are check the stubs in version control to simplify distribution and the workflow of people who want to help in the JavaScript part of caxa and who may not want to set up Go. Distribute the stubs with the npm package to avoid the issues mentioned. Add the stub advanced option to specify a custom stub. We did this yesterday. And yeah, there is even a test for this. Or not yesterday, 2 days ago, on Monday we did this. Yesterday I was over at IDGKD Sound and we were talking about Git and Reaper and Lua. So next one, added documentation, not the documentation. Where is this? Oh, I lost it. Here it is. Added documentation on how to emulate an include option in, oh, I guess I'm not using dash anywhere else. So to emulate an include option, maybe I should put dash in the beginning of all this. There we go. Added the stub advanced option, we did that. Added documentation how to emulate the include option and why that's probably a bad idea. We talked about this as well. Next, added the initial message advanced option to print a message when uncompressing. I did not do that yet. And these two go together, and I didn't do any of the two, but we fixed the exclude option on Windows. You know what? I think I'm going to mark the things that I still need to do. So I still need to work on these 3 things. Yeah. And how about we start working on this one, because it is the most gratifying. It is the most fun. I'm going to push this because I don't have the Windows subsystem for Linux installed on this Windows machine, so I cannot use bash over here. So I just pushed, and now we can switch to macOS, and from here we will continue. We are pulling all the changes we just pushed. Oh, and I have something in here that I need to clean, which is, yeah, I took note of the change in the documentation that I talked about before, and I did that here. I want to be kind of centered in the camera, but this computer is off to the side, so I'm like this while I'm programming. So this should now be clean, and I'm able to pull. So we just pulled over here all the changes from Windows, and let's move on to this bash strategy. So that's super cool stuff. It's a new kind of stub. And let's look at the implementation over here. So we have some preparation work, and then we start the build directory. We copy things over, we run some commands in there, and then we start the production of the actual stub. So at this point in the program, the build directory is ready. The build directory is this temporary directory in which I have prepared the application for packaging, and the application is done. It's ready for packaging. So at this point, I look at the extension of the file. If it is a .app, then there is this other novelty. It's another way of packaging the app, which is to produce a .app. And a .app is just a directory that macOS recognizes as special because it has a certain structure. So I generate a directory with that particular structure. Now, otherwise, I just use the Go stub, which is this part. So I just use the Go stub, and that is the strategy. But how about we add a new strategy, which is else if the output ends with .sh, and if you say that your output ends in .sh, then it will be special and it will use the stub that is a bash script. So The bash script stub will work pretty much like the other Go stub. It is a self-extracting executable, but it is written in bash, and it's going to use the command line utilities that it expects to find in your machine already. So tar and what else does it need? It will need maybe some other simple things, but we will see. So it will be similar to this in spirit. So let's look at the one below, and we can discuss what we need to change. So to start with, it copies over this stub. So I guess we will do something similar. Let's do something similar. So instead of copying the file, I will write a file. And here I need to say where to write this file to, and I am going to write to output. And what is the data on this file? What is the material in this file? Well, it is my bash stub. And I could have a file for this, but it's just as fine for me to put the stub right here in this source. And I guess that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm putting the source right here, and I believe it would be nice for me to install ddent. So I don't think it's installed yet. But because I want this to be in line, I will install ddent. And I forget, do I need to install the types for this, or does that package comes with types? No, it does not. So I will have to install ddent, the types for that. So if you don't know ddent, it is a package that allows you to write code that will be indented like this. So here we'll have something like this, but it will strip out these spaces in the beginning. That's what the ddent package does. So now we can import we'll call this maybe bash from ddent, and then over here we can say that this is bash, and it will ddent, but it also documents what language we are using to write this, which I find beneficial as well. And to begin with, I think that I should just have an echo hello world here. And I guess I'll put this in quotes just to see if I am creating the file the right way. And maybe I can write the docs for this. So here on the output, oh, there is another thing that I think is super important. We need to check for the platform. If this is on Windows, then you don't have bash, and I'm just going to blow up. So let's do a check that is similar to this one. So if your process platform is Win32, if you are on Windows, then bash, or actually I guess I can do this with sh. So shell stubs .sh. The shell stub .sh is supported in, isn't supported in Windows. Okay, so we have that, and now let us do a similar thing we did on the Windows computer. So we'll run ts node with the source, which is going to run the development version of caxa, and let's ask for help, and then we can copy and paste that line. And this is the line for Mac OS and Linux. And I believe since we have a line here for a Mac application bundle, how about we add a line for Mac OS / Linux, and we are calling this the Shell Stub. And I guess I will capitalize this because it is a name in my application. So the Shell Stub isn't supported in Windows. Okay, the Shell Stub isn't supported in Windows, and then this is an example of how to use the Shell Stub, and all I have to do is put a .sh at the end of the name, and then we can copy this line over here and run it. Oh, I made a mistake. I did not copy this end quote. So let's try this again. npx ts node source and then that. And then I suppose it generated here an echo command line parameters.sh. Oh, I don't like the way that this reads, so I guess I will copy this over there. There you go. So now let's try this again. And here is our shell script. And I don't believe it has the right permissions to actually run. So if I try to run echo command line parameters, it doesn't even autocomplete here for me to run. And that is because of permissions. So we need the executable flag enabled on this file. So how about we come over here and we copy this mode, which I think is correct. Yeah, it's even used here on a write file. So this is the mode that is executable. And this is the line that produces the shell script, so let's run it. And now let's look at the permissions. The permissions are correct. I see little X's over here, and then when I try to run echo command line parameters, then it works. Awesome. So now let's write the stub. Well, actually, I don't need to write the stub from scratch. Let's look for like bash in here. So maybe I can come over here, maybe reference on self-extracting archives. I believe this article is a good one. I remember reading this one. So what this article does is similar to what we want to do. And here is the shell script. It doesn't work exactly how I want it to work. Yeah, it is using some magic here to get a hold of the separator. But in spirit, that's more or less what we want to do. So how about we start by finding the tarball at the end of the stub. So to produce a tarball, we will want code that is similar to this. And because we will need it in two places, then maybe it is good for us to extract this into a function. But before I start extracting this, I will commit, because maybe I will want to revert this. So I installed ddent, and I started this very modest work of this new stub kind. So I believe this function will be asynchronous, and let me start by defining a function called maybe tar. and we know it will be asynchronous, and it will return a promise because it is asynchronous, but the promise will be void. I don't actually need to do any work. This function is called for its side effect. Then over here, I'm creating an archive. I am creating a stream to the output. That is in fact what I want. So I don't need to pass this as a parameter. And then I pipe the archive stream. I put the build directory in there, and then I wait for this to finalize. So I believe that this is all I need. So maybe I should rename this. It's not a generic tar function. This is just append tarball to output. Maybe append tarball of build directory, append tarball of build directory to output. That is a fair name for what this function does. So now we can come here to this part, and all these lines are the lines that we extracted. So we can just call our function and await on its result. And in a similar fashion, we can do the same right here. So now I expect this sh file to be this much, followed by a bunch of weird characters, which is the binary representation of the tarball. So let's see if this works by using the same command as before, and we will open this echo command line parameters file. So let's wait for this to finish. And here it is. It is our stub, the shell script, and then all the binary data for the tarball. So now I want to find where the tarball starts, and maybe we should extract this into a stub variable, because we will need to manipulate this string. And how about this? How about we echo hello world and then some placeholder. Also, I want a new line at the end of this, and it seems like ddent is removing the last new line, so I will add a new line, an explicit new line like this. And here I will have a placeholder, which is the number of lines. So check this out. This is super cool stuff. So this is like, I'll put a caxa here. No, that's a bad name to use. Number of lines. And then I will modify this stub. Maybe caxa number of lines, to replace occurrences of these with an occurrence of stub dot. How do I get the number of lines? Do I split it on new line and then take the length? I think that's the way to do it. Is there something like a lines method? No. You know what? I think I want to rename this variable. It will be the shell stub, because we already have another variable, and I don't think that they will conflict. This is the path to the stub, to the go stub, if you want to use that. But, or you know what? Let's not rename it. So now we have here a problem. No overload matches this call. An argument of type number is not assignable to this parameter, so I think I just need to convert this into a string. Okay, so let's try this. And let's reopen our shell script. I want to open it anyway using the default text editor. And here is our stub. And we are now getting the number of new lines in this stub. Why do I want to do this? Well, because I can use tail. So now I know the number of lines before the tarball starts, and I can use tail to get a hold of the tarball. Cool stuff, huh? That's a nice hack. So let's change this to be like 1, 2, or maybe I will change. Can I leave without saving? Yes. So let's reopen this. And let us go from this line to the last one. And this is our tarball. And it starts in line 3. So we can say something like tail minus n plus 3 of something, of echo command line parameters.sh, and we get a hold of just the tarball. So over here, we will want to do something like this. This will get a hold of just the tarball that we are appending to the file. Next, what do we have to do? Well, we have to tar. So let us pipe to tar, and we are going to extract a zip, because it's a tarball, extract a zip file, and I suppose I can just pass a minus here, it doesn't hurt. And that is pretty much it. And we can also pass a directory in which we want to extract this. So how about we extract this into tmp caxa test, which does not currently exist. But we'll see what happens. If tar will create the directory, or if we'll need to make the directory. You know what? I think we'll need to make the directory. But let's test this. It doesn't really hurt to test this. Oh, and another thing is, after this shell program executes, it will try to execute the tarball, which is not executable, so we need to say exit. And for now, we'll just exit with 0. Oh, stop. So now we can run this. It will create a tarball. And we can run this. Yeah, failed to open. Oh, that's because of the order of the parameters. That's terrible. So now let's reorder this. We want to extract into that folder. Oh, no. Recompile. And then run. By the way, this shell strategy for the stub is actually something that people use, VirtualBox, if you try to install VirtualBox on Linux, they give you a shell script that is a self-extracting thing, just like this. Oh, it requires an argument, of course. So I don't want to have an argument, I want it to process the standard input. tar is notorious for having a difficult to use interface, but most of these mistakes would have been avoidable, I guess. But while this is compiling and running, there is an xkcd about tar. Yeah, that's true. This is kind of taking too long. So I suppose there is a problem. Let's stop this and look at the shell script that was created. Oh, I need to say what to tail, and I need to tail myself. I need to tail the shell script itself. How do I get a hold of that? I guess it's $0. Let's quickly hack this together. Oh no, okay. Yikes. Okay, let us just get rid of the echo command line parameters shell script altogether. And let us create a remove shell script that will be just this, and we need to make it executable and execute it. Alright, so that should work. Is there a way to bash script get script path, something like that? Yeah, they seem to be using $0, $0, and also script. That doesn't work. Oh, because it was used in the line before. So let's see the difference between $0 and real path of $0. Real path command not found. And using real path would introduce an extra dependency to our users. So the users will need to have installed tail, tar, and everything else that we use in our script. So the less we use, the better. So we'll just go with $0. Let's put this in the stub. So now we are tailing ourselves, and then we are piping to tar. Let's try this version. Could not go to that directory because that directory doesn't exist. So you can see that the directory is not here. So I suppose what we will need is a major path of this. And here is our caxa test directory with our project in there. So this is extracting correctly. What do we have to do next? Well, we have to run the command that you told me to run. So you passed a command array, and I need to actually run that. So here I can PR Tech View says hi, I'm from India. Hi, hello. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed this. So now we need to call the command that you told me to run. And is there a way for me to just exec something like ls? Yeah, so I can just exec your program and then I will exit. And command is a string array, and I believe I need to map this because I want to put this in quotes. Right, yeah, let's look at the manual for exec real quick. Do we have some like examples? Example? No. Exec example. Bash exec example. Okay. Pass the string name as the 0th argument to run. No. Empty environment. No. No. Okay. I believe we just need to pass the command and the arguments, and they are all on the command array. So we take the command part and we wrap it in double quotes like this. So if your argument has a double quote in there, it needs to be space, it needs to be escaped. But other than that, I am escaping this by putting it in double quotes. Yeah, let's test this out. Oh, and let me stop this. I should remove this caxa test directory. And PR Tech View says, I am having Java full stack course. What are your views on that technology? In that I have core Java, advanced Java, SQL, JavaScript, Spring, Hibernate, HTML, CSS, etc. I don't have a lot of expertise in that, but it seems to be fine. I mean, it's very popular, and there is a lot of good resources for you to learn from, and there are big companies and projects using this technology, so it should be okay, but I don't have too much experience in that space. Oh yeah, so I am mapping, but then it's joining using commas, and I want it to join using spaces. Yeah. I do have experience with HTML and CSS, and I do talk about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript a whole lot in this channel. Of course, I'm writing JavaScript right now, but I also do write JavaScript for the front end, which is something I did like last week, and I'm going to do again next week, I suppose. Okay, so cannot execute this. How are we using the command over here? Oh, so we are replacing caxa, so we need to do something here. I need to replace all occurrences of caxa, the placeholder, with a path, which I suppose is this path for now. While that's running, yeah, I can talk some more about Java. I used Java like 10 years ago. It was a different technology back then. There was no lambdas, there was no Spring Boot, I think is the name, which is a simpler framework. And yeah, I mean, it is one of the most used programming languages, and it is really robust, and you can do a lot with it. So yeah, it's a great technology to learn. Can learning JavaScript help understand React? For sure. Yeah, if you want to write React, you are writing that in JavaScript, so there is no avoiding learning JavaScript. In fact, I would recommend that you first learn JavaScript and then you try to learn React. Okay, so that worked. Awesome. Let's take a look at how this looks. Let's take a look at what is it? This. Let's take a look at this. So it's going to make the directory, it's going to tar extract into that directory, and it's going to execute your beautiful program like this. Next, let's check that the exit status is forwarded. So from exec, I suppose that it will be forwarded. And I believe I can test this very easily by packaging another example which is called false. And then I believe all of these remains, and then this I can remove. And then here I will call false. So false is a program that will fail to run, and its exit status will be the number 1. And then when I echo this, it's the number 1. So exec is forwarding that status for us. Is that exec available on Linux? I think it is. But let's SSH into a Linux machine and exec ls. Yeah, so exec works on Linux as well, and it works in Mac OS. And I prevented you from using this kind of stub in Windows, so that's fine. So we are forwarding the status of the execution from within your executable out into the shell. That much is working, but what we are not doing is passing the command line arguments from the call. So if I have some extra arguments over here, they are not being passed in. And if I remember correctly, there is a way for me to do that. So is it here somewhere? No. So I guess I need to look for bash and forward command line arguments. Seems good. Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Using quotes here is good because my path may have some spaces in there. And I guess all I need to do is, after all the commands that I am passing, I can just forward all the commands that you have passed from the command line. So just to show how this works. The extra arguments are not being passed into the binary right now. You can see that it's not being passed in there. But if I run it again with my fix, so this is going to recompile, so it's going to use the new stub with this parameter in there. This will forward everything correctly. The extra arguments will show up in the output. There you go, there they are. Are we missing something? Let us think. So we need to make a temporary directory. There is still that to do. And then we are finding the separator. We are using something more interesting than AWK to do that. We are tailing, we are tarring. XZ are the parameters that it's passing. I'm also passing XC and capital C to do that in the temporary directory. Then I am calling your program, and I don't need to do this part. I'm doing that differently. There you go, here we are. So all we have left to do is to create a temporary directory. And I believe we should use make dir temp. Make temp dir, make temp. Yep, that. I wonder if I should try to like cache the outputs and decompression like I do in the real stub. But that could get complicated. Can I get a hold of the temporary directory? So bash temporary directory. Because it's creating the temporary directory in this place. Can I get a hold of that? How to create a temporary directory? I guess I should look at what I have over here. Yeah, this is the folder where I usually do the cache extractions. So I could do something in there. Can I make temp? Let's look at the manual real quick. I can pass a prefix. So make temp with the prefix of caxa/hello. But this is a file. Now this is the directory. The funny thing is that this is not documented. Oh, it is. It is documented here. So documentation says make a directory instead of a file and a prefix. Ah, okay. So I can do it like this. No, not really. What is the name of the directory that we create when we are running the actual stub? Applications. So we will create something like this. it will be something like this. And I guess it doesn't hurt for us to put the identifier in there as well. Then I would really like to get a hold of this weird name that is our temporary directory. How do I do that? Is there something like a... No. That seems like the thing I want. There you go. Let's look at the manual for make temp, and let's confirm that -u it actually creates and then removes the directory. Okay, I guess I can say base name of make temp. Not base name, base dir. Or dir name? Is it called dir name? Yeah, it's called dir name. So that is a way to get a hold of the temporary directory like that. So I can say maybe export caxa temporary directory is equal to dir name of this. And then in here, I guess it doesn't hurt for me to put some quotes around there. And then in here, I will create a folder that is the caxa temporary directory / caxa / applications / identifier. And then here well, I guess I could just do it in one pass like this. I wonder if exec will change my current working directory. Is it going to do that? I don't know. Let's check. So let's say that I have a remove sh file that just does cwd. And if I am in the source folder and I run remove, it's pwd. Then I am in the source folder. If I come in here and in the source folder and I exec, well, I guess I need to run a bash inside so I can actually see the output. So I can exec. First of all, where am I? I am in the source folder, and I can exec remove, and I'm still in the source folder after the exec. So that doesn't change. I don't need any special treatment for that. Now let us check that this whole shenanigans will work. So I guess I can just do something like this and then echo this variable. And there you go. That is the path where we would have extracted our applications. Let's think. What else do we need to do? Well, it would be awesome to actually test this and see if the folder is created and everything. So let us test that. And we can watch. So the TMP directory we don't need to watch, but we can watch this one. All this hello stuff we can delete. The builds directory, the applications directory is in there, the application is in there. And I don't like how there is an sh at the end. So I already removed some extensions here. I could just remove .sh as well. But we can see that the thing is working and it is creating the directory in the right location. And here it's not even creating the .sh at the end. So I very much like what's going on here. How about we commit what we currently have, because we made some progress here. What? Ah, okay. We extracted the append tarball of build directory to output. Yep. I like everything I see in there. It would be good for us to write some tests for this, but also I would like to implement here the logic that we have in the real stub to do the extraction only when necessary. Well, we are already doing the extraction only when necessary, but more importantly, I would like to do the extraction. If you break in the middle of the extraction, I would like to retry. And we have worked out this logic in a previous stream. It's not difficult logic, but it's not trivial either. But we will kind of refer to the logic and just translate it to bash. So first of all, I know that I will need a for loop. Yeah, with the extraction attempt. So how do I do a for loop in bash? Let us close some of these tabs. I saw something about infinite loops. Okay. Uh-huh. Okay, let's see an example of these. Okay, that is an example. So we will do a for loop. And we will have our extraction attempt. It will start with 0. We don't want to check for any condition in particular, and we want to increment the same way we did here. And then we say do, and then after the exact, so I suppose at this point we say done, and we indent everything in between. So the cool thing is that we are using exec here, so that will take us out of the loop. I guess what I'm gonna do is just echo the extraction attempt, and we should see a number 0 while we extract. So the output should be a number 0 and then this list of parameters or arguments. 0, then extraction is happening, and then we see the arguments. Excellent. So now we have to reproduce this logic. And I guess this exec at the end will not happen in the loop. Awesome. So here we have to check if the application directory exists. I will put caxa in the beginning of all my variable names because I'm not sure what's going to happen in this environment. If this environment will pick up these variables, then it is kind of okay to leave this junk around, but I will at least namespace all the junk. So the junk is at least in my name. So caxa application directory is my caxa temporary directory / applications. Oh, I guess we already have all of that, so maybe I need to extract this into 2 parts. Like that. So this is our caxa temporary directory. The application directory will be the temporary directory / applications / identifier. slash cache extraction attempt. And then I can check whether this directory exists. Check if directory exists. Okay. So we will need the application directory and something called a lock directory. A lock file info? Isn't that a lock directory? Yeah, it is a lock directory. And we are calling that just a lock. The cache lock. And that will be under locks, I suppose. Yes. Yeah, here we are. So I can check the existence of the application directory. If the application directory exists, then I can check for the existence of the lock. If the lock exists, then I want to continue. Can I do that in Bash? Yes, I can. Is that the logic? Let's see. Application directory, if it is a directory, then check for the lock. If the lock exists, then continue. If the lock does not exist, then break. And over here, if the application directory does not exist, then we will extract. Is that what we do? Yeah, we start extraction. Oh, but we need to create a lock. So we will not extract into the temporary directory. We will extract into the application directory, but we need to create a directory which is our lock, and at the end we will remove the lock. Whew, that's a lot of work. And then the application directory will be set because it has been exported over here. Is that going to work? I have I think it will not. Let's try. By the way, before I even start this test, I want a clean slate, so I will remove the cache directory and we will run this. And yeah, it's creating lock folders and all, but it's in a loop. Oh, I think I forgot to break. So after I do the extraction, I break out of this loop. Yeah, that was removed. And over here we have the 0th extraction. And if we had a folder in here called 0, that will cause the next run to extract again. I should not have recompiled the thing, because now it has a new identifier. Bummer. Let's get rid of this old one and look at the new one. So the new one has no lock directories, but if I go into the lock directory and I create a folder called 0, and then I rerun this, but only this part, then it creates another extraction, which is the extraction number 1. But if I rerun this, it's super fast because it's reusing that extraction. So there you go. I think we recreated this logic from Go into Bash. So let's reread this. We have the extraction. I guess we can reread this side by side. Side by side doesn't really work because the screen is too narrow. There you go. So we have the extraction attempt, and we have our temporary directory where we create the lock and the application directory. There you go. We check for the existence. I guess I'll do this in this order so it matches the order we see here in the Go file. First lock, and then application directory, and then let's first check the application directory. If it is a directory, we go in here and we check the lock. If the lock is a directory, then continue. If it does not, if it's not a directory, then break. And otherwise, if the application directory does not exist, then extract, which is what we do in this part. So here we create, first we lock, then we create the application directory. So we extract, we do this part, then we release the lock, and we break. Awesome. And then we have the application directory that we can just use because it has been set in here with the right attempt. Awesome. Let me remove all these leftovers. No, stop. Let me remove these leftovers. Come on, help me out here. Let's remove this. Okay, it did it. Yeah. Let us write a test for this maybe. Let's see if there is something we need to update in the docs. No. There are many command line parameters that don't really apply to this stub, and I'm not going to bother with this. I'm just going to let all the command line parameters be ignored. Is there something in the README that we have to update? Did I remember to mention all of these? Yeah, added a new stub strategy bash. So I can remove this to do, and I will write a test for this real quick. And it will be right below this .app test. And if my platform is not Win32, then I will run this test. And let's see, so how do I build this? I say source output is my output, and all of this makes sense. I don't need to console this out, and I expect to run the output only, so I can say just output, which is a .sh file. Oh, I want to embed some command line arguments over there, so how about I grab this invocation? So some embedded arguments from here. Yes, so this invocation. And I expect this output. Looking at these two side by side, they look correct. Sounds good. So how about we run only this test to make things relatively quicker? There you go. The test is passing. Awesome. And there is a tests sh, so our test is in there. Awesome. What have I changed here? I added this test. And here I removed that to do. Okay, that was some fun work. I mean, this stub strategy is like a novelty, but it has some advantages. It is smaller, by 2 megabytes because the Go stub has 2 megabytes and this is just a shell script with 10 lines, so you save yourself some 10 megabytes. And tomorrow what we are gonna do is to look at this pull request, and there is a pull request to implement this, and we will implement this initial message option and the progress option, and we will implement that in our new bash stub as well, because it is probably something that is very easy to do. Maybe not the progress, but the initial message should be relatively easy to do. So check in again tomorrow at 5:30 UTC, we will address this last thing, and we will publish the 2.1 version of Caxa. Thank you very much for watching this, for supporting me on Patreon and PayPal. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. I see you all around. Have a good one. Bye.